Work with the same students more often than not in a repetitive behavior. Just like you learn nuances about your family and friends, this group of people will show you a certain nuance, a certain pattern. If you pick up on it, you can really connect stronger that way. I have students at one of my school that don't ever want handshakes, they don't ever want high fives, and then I have students at one of my schools that they will walk up to me all day and give me high fives. The ones that don't want high fives, am I going to force that? No, there's no need to. But a friendly hello and a big smile, it's a big positive. That's their comfort zone, and you want them to have that and allow them to have that. Don't underestimate the people you're working with. Very intelligent through academic standpoint, very intelligent through art standpoint, very physically strength and strong. It's not uncommon for these community members that they may have one expertise and they will blow your mind away. I worked with a student who could pretty much quote any Disney movie. Drop of a hat. Probably better than the writers themselves. That was, in his world, how his brain worked. Disney animation movies, something that he could pick up on. He could drop lines left and right. He could repeat you the whole movie line for line and tell you which character's saying it. It was astonishing, impressive. It was amazing. But if you're working with that student, what does that now tell you when you want to work with them? If you want to back focus, what tool can you use?
Concentration.
You can concentrate, but we could also just ask a movie question about a Disney movie. And now boom, now they're focused back in. Oh, Officer Aragon, that's the movie from, and the character said it was the 18th minute in. Awesome, thank you so much, Michael. Let's jump back into our conversation. They feel appreciated, they feel respected, they get heard. And now you can get them back on track.
And I got her right here.
Oh no, you got hurt?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, is that earlier today?
Yes.
What happened?
Because I don't know.
Oh, so, you know, earlier I forgot how I hurt my foot, but I've been dealing with it all day.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you feel better now?
I feel better now.
Okay, good. I'm going to work on my foot. Hopefully by the end of the day I'll feel better too.
Okay.
Is that good?
It's good.
I appreciate that.
It's a great demonstration.
False promises. Don't make false promises. That should be a rule for really anybody, anywhere, but all community members. Don't underestimate the power of memory and intelligence, and don't underestimate the emotional connection this community will have with you. Man, oh man, have I shed many a tears on how proud I am when I've seen a student from this community say or do something that was previously stated they could never do. One of my proudest moments of my career that I will never forget was in the middle of one of my lessons. I have a nonverbal lesson group, and then I have a verbal lesson group. And I was unaware that one of my attendees was considered a nonverbal student, as in she had never spoken ever. And in the middle of class, she rose her hand and asked me a question. I answered the question not thinking anything else, but I saw the staff and all the aides, eyes get this big, jaws drop, and I'm thinking, okay, I didn't think that was an inappropriate question. It seemed like it was on task for the conversation, and they informed me afterwards. Her parents had never heard her speak. Her teachers have never heard her speak. And she said, clear as day, Officer Aragon asked a question, I answered it, and we moved on. And from that moment forward, she would sing, she did karaoke, she would talk. Man, oh man, is it an amazing thing, the human brain, and how it functions at times. And when it comes to this community, it really can show you some miraculous stuff. But it's something I will never forget in my career. Never forget that she, for whatever reason, felt comfortable enough in that classroom environment to raise her hand and ask a question, and no one had ever heard her speak. It's amazing. Treat everyone with respect, show some love, and with this community, just add in a little more patience. There's nothing to be scared of. We're all humans. We're all here to have opportunity to interact. We all have our own differences. We're all individuals. It's just unfortunate society sometimes finds this community less than comfortable to be around. I find it to be the opposite. Some of the most miraculous things happen with this community because they're typically more raw, upfront, and direct about being a human. And if you can look past or get past some of the sounds, movements, you'll see a bunch of beautiful, amazing, intelligent, and wonderful people, I promise you. Anybody have any questions for me?
No.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yeah.
So if on the street, if we find like the kid, should we talk to them first or call 911? If we think he was lost or she was lost.
Yeah, both.
Like,
Yeah, it's not inappropriate to see any young adult or young teenager that's walking around, or somebody who might be demonstrating or displaying some nonverbal communication or behavior that might be off. It could be someone who's lost because they've never been to our city before, and they're legitimately lost and their phone battery's dead and they're just struggling and frustrated and confused. Could be a language concern. Could be a memory concern with our senior citizen group typically. It could be someone who's a part of this community or not. Yeah, hey, ma'am, sir, everything okay? Do you need anything? If they say no or shy away, in Irvine, I can't speak to all of my neighboring agencies, but in Irvine, that's a very common call. Hey, we've got someone who maybe seems lost. I don't know if they have the same language skill as I do. I don't speak many languages. I'm assuming you only maybe speak two. You speak more than two?
two.
Okay. I tried both language skill sets I had. It didn't seem to work. I just don't want them to get hurt or wander off and be lost if that's the case. And we'd respond out. Actually, the whole reason the program that I teach at this special education school started was because somebody in this community wouldn't get on a bus when they were supposed to and then stop talking. So Irvine PD was called, and then we started interacting with this person who wouldn't talk. And by the end of the program that I had authored with one of the teachers, that same student was giving a comedy show to a crowd of officers in uniform.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, you just got to break down some of the apprehensions. Everybody's loved, everybody's respected, and have some patience. You're going to see and experience some really cool and amazing things with this community. Other questions?
Does anybody call 911 accidentally or on purpose? What kind of discipline penalty they will get?
So accidental 911 phone calls, no penalty. There's no fees or fines. What will end up happening is our dispatchers will call back. Irvine Police Department, do you have an emergency? If you don't answer, then we as officers, two of us will get sent to your location just to confirm no one needs help. The mindset that we have is, what if you are having a medical issue and in your last act you're dialing 911 and now you can't talk? Maybe you're having an allergic reaction. And so they call back, no one answers, two officers get sent, and it's our job to start figuring out, was this an accident? Or was this someone's last action before maybe they lost consciousness? And then we do our job if that's the case. No penalty, no fees or fines. In a very rare extreme case where, let's say, and it has happened in my career, somebody calls 200-300 times a day, false 911s, that is a crime technically, and we can enforce removing your ability to call 911. But it was quite extreme for this one family that we dealt with it, I think, for months before a judge was willing to sign the paperwork, and then that family lost 911 as an option. But again, a very, very rare extreme case.
So they cannot call 911?
You can, but it's not going to go to Irvine PD.
Oh, I heard some people can send a message. Is that
Text to 911 is a tool.
Yeah.
Irvine PD adopted that technology, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago now. It is something that I actually do train with the students. If you are a nonverbal student or you have limited language skills, 911 text will go to either Irvine PD, Orange County Fire Authority, or if you live near the freeway, it could potentially go to CHP. In either case, if it's any language, now we have the opportunity, the dispatchers have the opportunity to translate that quickly, right? Grab it, copy and paste it to Google Translate or another translation service, and then see what's going on. The most important thing about texting 911 is location, location, location. Once we know the address, everyone in the world can come help you. Don't send emojis, don't send pictures, and it has to only go to 911. If you try to do 911 and mom or 911 and your boss or something like that, it doesn't work that way. It will never get to 911. It has to be 911 by itself.
Basically, it can't get sent that way,
911 only accepts normal, plain language.
like normal talking.
Correct. Just in written script. Other thoughts, ideas? Very rare, but we do see it in the news, unfortunately, right? So we do a lot of training with our schools. I happen to be one of 15 dedicated full-time officers to our schools within the city of Irvine. We have nearly 60 private and public schools within our city that we work with directly. I oversee 9. So we do training with staff members. We do training at the district office. We do training during summertime. We do training after school on the weekdays. We keep them up to date on things. Obviously, teachers and working professionals in the academic world are very much aware of what's been going on, unfortunately, the way the news media covers it and gives it a lot of attention. So we do have a lot of cross-training with our school staff. And then as a police department, a little insight about law enforcement, a school shooting is no different, not to sound insensitive, than a shooting that happens on a street, that happens at a home, that happens at a bank, that happens at a church, that happens at a business center. Our response is going to be the same. We need to get there, contain the threat, eliminate the threat, and then start rendering aid. If it happens to be on campus, the difference would probably be age groups of victims. And that sounds very cold-hearted, and I don't want you to think that we're cold-hearted. It's just, remember that we're trained to deal with unfortunate tragedies regardless of location. Yeah. Other questions?
Oh, sorry.
Just want to make sure to kind of let him know that when he has, or like this, when other members in the community aren't aware of our special community, that if they see a behavior or tantrum that's kind of aggressive or violent, that they can actually call 911 themselves because they're witnessing something
Correct.
that could be violent.
100%.
So I just want to make sure he understands that other people in the community may call the police because of a tantrum or a bad behavior.
Yeah, it's for anyone.
Right. Right.
Any of us start to be very physically animated or boisterously animated, regardless of our intelligence levels and capabilities, can cause a stir and create a call for service for us. But I know that within this community it can be more frequent with certain individuals. It can be stated by all of us, but is that going to really change the fact that it might not happen? It's probably going to happen again at some point, right? Patrick was my stepbrother, and he was at times very animated when he didn't get what he wanted, just like a toddler would be, or like my 6-year-old daughter is whenever she doesn't get what she wants. It's a tantrum. The difference is Patrick, the last time I got to hang out with him, and it's been a handful of years, is 6'4" and 300 pounds. That person's going to create much more of a response from law enforcement versus someone that we perceived as maybe 10 years old and having a tantrum, right? So Patrick is a very stout human being, and unfortunately, or fortunately, for him, he has the mindset of more of like a 6-year-old. What we would call a 6-year-old. In his world, that's just who he is, and we should all accept him for him. The challenge is a 6-foot man, 6'4", 300-pound man, very strong. That's one of his gifts. I've been blessed enough to work with this community where I've done crossover training with our police officers to look for indicators and signs and objective signs and symptoms to help as we're responding. Is this a tantrum? Or is this somebody acting violent under some narcotics or psychosis? Because that's a different response for us, right? So one of the benefits of being willing and comfortable in this community for me is I can take that knowledge and then take it back to the police department and help cross-train them. So it's not a one-way road. It is truly a two-way road. I'm in the middle of coming up with some training that's going to happen at the end of this month in my police department.
So there's some awareness between the difference of someone potentially being violent versus someone with special needs that may not know their...
I can only bring the attention and the knowledge to those who are serving the community, but we take someone who's throwing a tantrum for just simplicity reasons, holding a knife, then it doesn't matter, right? We now have a deadly weapon, potential imminent threat of danger. Things change. If it's tantrum, kicking in the air, screaming, animated body movements, and everyone's distant from that person except for father, mother, guardians, and they're just saying, okay, relax, breathe, listen, whatever the training or whatever pattern makes the most sense to try to calm the scene down, we're now going to see that, and I'm hoping that it's registering in all of our heads as we're responding. And we go, okay, what do you know? What do we know? We have nearly 60 campuses in our city, and I believe we have 37 of them with community members of this group on our campuses. It is not uncommon at this point where we get calls for service because of behavioral concerns, animated movements, animated voices, and we understand and we step back, and if they destroy a classroom, big deal. It's a classroom.
Is there a code between the community and the police department where we would know to say?
No code.
Code blue that we have
Nope.
a behavior.
Plain language makes the most sense. This is my loved one. He or she has fill in the blank. They are fine. Thank you for being here. And just repeat it over and over and over until it clicks. Because you get a younger officer where he or she may not have grown up or had exposure to this environment, they're seeing someone being aggressive, right? So it's stressful, it's dynamic, but then that's where we go to our aides, our teachers, our parents, our guardians, and all the people that are volunteering, and we repeat that. This person is diagnosed on the spectrum, this person is hard of hearing or part of the DHH community, and you start throwing out those keywords as quick as possible, then your firefighters, your paramedics, your law enforcement officers, we should key in on it pretty quick. Another thing that we do for the training is we talk about the audible sensitivity and the visual sensitivity, because those can be triggering. So understanding to maybe knock down the lights and sirens once you get close. If you're calling 911 and you're working with somebody in this community, let the dispatchers know that they have an audible sensitivity or a light sensitivity, because we don't want to create more aggravation. But if we don't know, we may get there and the lights keep flashing, and that's creating more problems than it is solutions.
Oh yeah, one question. So like when we meet the officers like in the uniform, right? What are things we cannot do? Like for example, like touch a gun, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, like one
So-
we can do it. But like for hug, like handshake, or
Here's the deal. We have this, as humans, we kind of have our sphere of comfort, right? Like most people walking up to you don't know, you wouldn't let them get close, right? As an officer in uniform, now we've added a bunch of tools. And some of these tools can have certain outcomes if they're used in a certain way. So if you're working with an officer and it's a situation like this, I'm invited, I walk in the building, no one's screaming and yelling at me, everyone seems very polite, and someone walks up to me and says, "Hi, nice to meet you, my name is," I'm not gonna be like, "Step back, sir." No, we understand. Like, I've already had a handful of adults and students walk up to me while I've been waiting to have the conversation. I didn't jump back, I didn't push away, right? Hugs are going to be a little different, maybe when it comes to full-grown adults. If a full-grown adult were to hug me, well, I don't know if I'd allow it, to be honest with you, because I don't know what that's about. But then I say that, and I work with the community and like my school, which is all adults, and they want to give me a hug, and I hug them, right? But that's a personal decision I make, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not really a foreign person at that campus. Like, they know Officer Aragon. I worked with them for about 4 years before they age out into the community. So, handshakes are always appropriate. If you have an officer saying, "Hey, give me some space," it may come across as abrupt, maybe even a little rude. That's not our intention, but there may be something going on over here that you don't know anything about, and we're not going to really tell you. So you coming up and telling me something, I might say, "Hey, stay right there for me, stay right there for me. What do you have to say? Is it related to why I got called here? No? Then go 30 yards that way and hang out if you need something, or call 911 if you need something." Because I'm already having to handle maybe situation A. We try to be quick, somewhat polite about it, but as officers, we have interesting people walk up to us all the time in the middle of a situation that can be a little less than easy to work with. Other questions, other thoughts? Well, I was asked to take 20 minutes, and I went a lot longer. I'm so sorry. I know you got some training to do. If there's no other questions, I will definitely step aside. I'm happy to come back again if there's an opportunity to do so. I find it really noble that this community group and this high school age-led leadership team is putting something like this together. I think all communities have an opportunity to learn from each other, regardless if it's a religious community cultural community, or if it in this case comes into a learning or physical disability community, we all have the opportunity to really learn from each other. Not only is it noble to see high school students create a program and walk through some training, but then to see all of these students here willing to sit through it and understand it and invest time into being better community members for all walks of life. So, good job. I'm glad to see this. I hope some of you live here in Irvine, but if you don't, enjoy taking this knowledge back to your communities regardless of what city or county you come from, okay? Awesome. You guys have fun?
Thank you.